A beautiful day at the end of September. It's early morning and I'm going to try to join the group from her farm with Diane Bernard. They are doing a seaweed tour and look at this weather. It was raining earlier, but it's definitely a gorgeous day. I am on the beach just on the right hand side of Sooke Harbour House and I can see Bob Turner and the group and the ocean and all the seaweed that is starting to come back and die on the beach. The expansion of beach, just beautiful. And Diane Bernard from SeaFlora, Outer Coast Seaweed, doing a seaweed tour.
And I'm going to just haul them out. I did pre-harvest because I just wasn't sure. Storms here the last 72 hours has been on, off, and you can feel it changing as we speak. So we'll just see how it goes and take it from there. And there's some I want to start. What we came through is my philosophy about this is that I consider this an ocean garden. And I consider this the wildest ocean garden. You think you guys garden? This is the garden here. And it grows and it fruits, it reproduces, and it acts in many ways, like a garden. I do that out there, sort of behind you. This is where Nancy's husband is with the dog. And we talk. And you can see what he's doing right there is walking through a massive amount of debris that has been kicked in with the last few storms. In order to calm people down, because I have lots of unique types that come out with me, I explain that that is a compost pile, and that as like any land garden, it goes through the growing patterns and it finishes up. It's finishing up about September 21st, around that fall equinox, and then the storms start to just unload. And I ask people, because they have their stereotypes that is what I harvest, that is what you eat, that is what seaweeds are. And I say, no, we would never judge a vegetable or a flower garden by the look, smell, and texture of a compost pile. So I ask people not to do the same with a seaweed garden. So when you find your oozy stuff way down and that slimy, icky stuff on the coast, and you find these things breaking down, you are actually digging in, playing around, being exposed to a compost garden. So just, keep that in mind. So people relax right away and hopefully they'll feel better, and out they come. And my tours take us out, way out around those rocks, close to that harvest bed that you can see there. And when we get out there, I immediately start to tell them, all right, it's like a garden, but it's not like a land garden in a way. The seeds are fundamentally different from land plants. They grow differently, they take nutrients in differently, they act differently, and as we're learning, they are more ancient than what's growing on our land farm. To me, there are really beautiful connections between the ocean and the land part of the planet. So truly a planet kind of philosophy I like to hold about seaweeds. So once we get through the compost and then we come out, it's true, seaweeds have fabulous nutrients. They take in. They have over 60 trace minerals, and they have excessive amounts of vitamins. They even have excessive amounts of all the B's, which are very unique for a plant. And the word that we use, I have huge debates with people whether it's a land plant or it's closer to an ocean, what's the typical name for it? People call it sea veggies. I don't know. People call it plant vegetables. They call it seaweed. They're not quite sure. And actually a very good name that people really calm down about, and they got was a SeaFlora, and that's the name of my brand. And it's a nice representation of what's going on in the ocean. But so they have these massive amounts of nutrients, and I'm just going to lay these out, and we're going to take a look at them, and So one of the reasons that I say that they have these fabulous nutrients, and when you go to most coastal communities around the world and you talk to people about seaweed, they are using it, historically or currently, and both. It's really quite cool. I'm from my family's from the east coast of Canada, a little islands called the Magdalene Islands, des Îles Madeleines, and my aunt's house, built in 1947, was furnished and done in 1999, 2000, and when they opened up the walls, they were loaded with seagrasses and seaweeds. They were using, this is an island where the trees only grow this big, it's quite Arctic-like in its nature. They were using seaweeds wherever they could to insulate their homes. It had absolutely no insulative value, but you know, that's what they were doing. My understanding was that thing about that use had ended around the 1890s in the year 1900s, but 1947, right after the war, that's what they were doing. So seaweeds are different, and let's talk about them. They're designed to be soft. They're designed because, as you can see from this, oh, look at that! Isn't that nice? The wave coming through, and you can see the seaweed bulbs on the surface. This is a fabulous seaweed bed. Mary, look at this right around us here, and it's quite deep.
Everything that we can see kind of sticking out.
Yep.
That's all seaweed.
That's just one little seaweed bed. And I'm licensed to Harbour River. I now have it. And the river has had some problems lately, and we're getting them all cleaned up. And I want to explain something else too. Right behind us is the Juan de Fuca Strait. Really deep, really fast moving, very cold. And you know, when you fall in here, you've got about 30 minutes to get your act together and get out. And if not, unless you're in full survival, you have a 50-50 chance, a toss of a coin that you will survive. So hypothermia is a real issue. So it's really cold, really fast. And what we're standing on is a really unique little shelf. And it kind of curves right along, like a half moon, out. Just about to those rocks, a little bit further. That's it. So it's like the perfect classroom for me. So I'm allowed to bring people out here. I don't harvest out here. This really should be a marine type park. And it should be an extension of the Whiff and Spit. And that will eventually happen. So we use it as a classroom, and it allows me to take people out here and to learn about it. So that gives you an idea of where we're at in terms of space. And the seaweeds are down, and when the tide comes in, they are designed to rise up, and they take their nutrients in directly from the ocean. They don't have leaves as such, called fronds. They don't really have a stem or bark or anything like that, but they have a stike. I'm going to pass this around. One of the things I want to show you, which makes seaweed so unique from anything growing on the planet, is that seaweeds do not have a root system. All right, so they don't anchor into a soil. They don't take their nutrients out of the soil, and they just rise up. They reproduce through spores. Their spores land, and they have a little, I believe it's a little bit of a calcium base on the rocks that allows them to sprout and to start. So here you can see, I'm going to pass it around, so take a look at it, and you can see what we're looking at. I think that here we go. I think that the seaweeds are quite elegant, and they're clean. And when you feel it, you'll feel a little bit of grit because it was just on the ground. But
what did you call the centerpiece?
This is Alaria marginata, the seaweed. It's called a stike.
S-T?
S-T-I-P-E. It's actually delicious. It's delicious. And like again, it's just too far in the season to really eat this right now. And
if they choose a rock that's too small, is that natural selection when the storm comes in, they get yanked out first?
Well, part of it, I guess. I can't say yes or no. I think they land where they land. But seaweeds, for 90% of the time, are annuals. They are really in that way. They are linked not to what, yeah, well, okay, they start to grow. And why do they start to grow? It's certainly not because of the temperature. This water is just cold all year round. Frederica does the polar bears jump on January 1st. And I always say, don't be too impressed, because the water is just as cold on July 1st as it is on January 1st. The air is different, and there's only a few degrees difference. So that it's not the temperature that generates the seaweeds to grow. What it is actually is the tilt of the earth towards the sun. So on December 21st, here in Canada, a big day, right? Because we suffer darkness here, and it just gets going further and further as we go north, so the seaweeds and that. But when the earth does that tiny little tilt here, seaweeds start to grow around December 21st. And they start to reproduce on the spring equinox, March 21st. We organize our entire harvesting season around those dates, so that we harvest only during the reproductive time. We hand harvest. Yes, it's a little bit easier in terms of getting, seaweeds here, because we can't. The public can come to take seaweeds for their own use. Commercial use, we have 3 levels of government to go through, and also, and that's good, and it has to be hand harvested. We don't allow, there's no machinery allowed out there. And it's those kind of things that we still have a very good seaweed base up and down this coastline. I know you guys have to go way offshore, I think in Washington, Oregon. Is that what do you know? It's, the harvesting regulations?
It depends on if they're actually growing the seaweed, like mariculture, or whether they're strict.
Very strict, and most of your coastline, Washington, Oregon, is under protection, and that's pretty nice, I must say. And you have a fabulous marine bed, just marine, huge monster area as big as the Olympic Park, just off of the Oregon coast, and that's pretty impressive too. So seaweeds grow that way. So one of the other things about seaweeds is, generally speaking, yes, there's 3 kinds. Simplified, well, the BC coastline, we brag over 600 species of seaweed. We knock the socks off of the world, I believe. It's more than off the coast of France, more than northern Atlantic. It's Chile. I haven't seen China yet. I've been to Australia. They just don't have this kind of diversity or variety of seaweed. So again, something quite unique about that kelp forest, coming down from Alaska, down the coast, all the way down, and they believe that, who is hanging on to seaweed, in small boats is quite doable. They were out there at that time. The other
They look waterproof. Did anybody ever use it as like a shelter or?
No, actually, one of the biggest things about seaweed when they start coming in after the fall equinox is rain, and they will start dumping, and seaweeds out here can be this deep. It's just tonnage. It's tonnage that comes in, and once the rain starts, and the salmon starts to run, these seaweeds, the fresh water, my sort of layman's understanding, is just totally dropped down. It's like a reverse osmosis. There's all that salt, good quality sodium chloride and stuff in there, and holding things, and then the seaweed just starts to break down. And it will, even now, just out there over the last few days, little bits of sea lettuce that I'm picking up, really, really small. It's just breaking. And when you go to pick up seaweeds, at times they snap, or it doesn't really happen any other time of the year after September 21st. So we have 3 simple categories related to the amount of chlorophyll that they contain, and it's Phaeophyta, for the browns, Rhodophyta for the reds, and Chlorophyta for the greens. And it's very interesting, evolutionary-wise, on the big circle of plants they put in, kelps are much older than reds, and on the opposite side, reds and the kelp. And I don't know what that means. I have to find a biologist, and I know one who's going to explain that to me.